Good evening. I call to order the May 23rd, 2016 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request that you please silence your cell phones and electronic devices at this time. And I'll invite you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Present.
Ms. Bolton?
Present.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Manera?
Here.
Mr. Nelms?
Here.
President Copeland-Dansby.
Present. Well, tonight is a super exciting night. It's always one of my favorite meetings, as we will have a presentation of our valedictorians and salutatorians for the class, the very special class of 2016. And so I think I'm to turn over to Ms. Wagner, or Ms. Walsh.
I'll answer to anything when we're honored.
There you go. Me too. Thank you.
It's a big night. Cincinnati Public Schools in many ways, not the least of which is that tonight is the night that we honor our valedictorians and salutatorians. I'm Janet Walsh, Director of Public Affairs for Cincinnati Public Schools, and we're going to shine the spotlight on those students this evening. We honor the students for all of the hard work, stamina, perseverance, long hours of burning the midnight oil to maintain top grades throughout their entire high school careers. Congratulations to all of you for achieving this honor. Tonight, we'll have the school principal or another representative of each school introduce our vows and sals and tell you a little bit about them. We have for each a certificate recognizing this honor and acknowledging our appreciation as a district, and a little gift, a little backpack for you to take along your way to college. After having your photo taken over here with the superintendent and board president, we're going to ask each of you to advance to the stage and stand in a line and remain there until we've honored all vows and sals. And we will have a final picture then by our photographer, and we'll even take a little bit of time for any family members to click their phones or any cameras that they have with them tonight. So, without further ado, let's start with Aiken High School. Apologies, that should say valedictorian. They wouldn't have made such a mistake.
The valedictorian of New Tech at Aiken High School is Kaylin Rankins. Kaylin is an active member of the Aiken community, participating on the leadership team, the volleyball team, the academic team, the National Honor Society, and JCG. She was a peer mentor, a College for Every Student scholar, and a GE scholar, where she will intern this summer. Her awards include Most Improved in Volleyball and Most Valuable on the Academic Team, which won 2 championships in her 3 years. Kaylin was accepted to Tennessee State University, Eastern Michigan University, Eastern Kentucky University, Wright State University, Northern Kentucky University, but once she completes her internship, she plans to attend the University of Cincinnati.
All right.
Kaylin Rankins. Our salutatorian is Claudasia Payne, but she was unable to join us today. She's at a retreat with the rest of her senior class. Thank you.
Next, we have Clark Montessori High School.
Good evening, Superintendent and members of the board. I'm so pleased this evening to help you get to know three of our finest Clark Montessori students. We have Caroline Lehman. She studied political theater for her senior project and wrote an extensive research project on the impact of political theater on historical events. Also, for her job shadow in the fall, she shadowed a prominent, who shall remain anonymous, civil rights attorney, and she is choosing to go to Kenyon College. She was also accepted at Beloit, Carleton, Earlham, Grinnell, Malacaster, and Oberlin. Our next co-valedictorian is Lily Marrero. She, for her senior project, spent a full year studying immunization system responses to active and inactive vaccines. She, for her job shadow in the fall, she went to the Crossroads Medical Center for 2 weeks and worked with the health care team there. And she will be attending the University of Cincinnati College of Nursing. Finally, we have for our salutatorian, Sarah Wygant. For her job shadow experience, she spent 2 weeks at the ICU in neurocritical care at University Hospital, and her senior project full year study was dedicated to the environmental impact of brain development of infants and toddlers. She too will be attending the University of Cincinnati College of Nursing. Thank you for recognizing their accomplishments. Next, we'd like to recognize our top scholars from Dater High School.
Good evening, members of the board. Good evening. Superintendent Ronan. So grateful to be here and excited to share with you information regarding our salutatorian and valedictorian for this school year. First of all, our salutatorian, Miss Destiny Brock. Destiny was accepted into OSU, University of Cincinnati, the University of Mount St. Joseph, and Indiana University, Bloomington, as well as Purdue University and Eastern Michigan. She is attending UC, majoring in operations management and minoring in entrepreneurship this coming year. She was the recipient of the UC Pride Grant, the Cincinnati Century Scholarship worth $15,200, and also the Lindner Business Fellows Scholarship of $2,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. She attended Dater for 4 years and started her weighted or special college prep program and AP courses just last year, is a part of the National Honor Society and completes community service, including food kitchens as well as caring for children of immigrant families. She took the highest level of Spanish that we offer, was an officer in her 9th grade, and also sings in the senior choir. She has also participated regularly in our community service event, which is semi-annual, entitled Dater Cares. Destiny Brock. And now our valedictorian, Lawam Alem. She was born and raised in the East African country called Eritrea, came to the U.S. in 5th grade where she attended the Academy of World Languages, and then came to Dater as an 8th grader in 2011. She was the treasurer of the Student Council for 2 years, joined National Honor Society in the 10th grade, and is currently the co-president of our National Honor Society chapter. She has a GPA of 4.86 weighted and a 3.88 unweighted. She's volunteered at Mercy Health Nursing Home, has attended all of our Dater Cares event, and has donated blood to the Hawksworth 6 times. She's applied and been accepted to the University of Cincinnati, Miami University, Ohio State, and the University of Toledo. Just a couple of weeks ago, she was honored by you for receiving a full ride scholarship to the Ohio State University provided through the Young Scholars Program. I present to you not only Destiny Brock, but also Luam Alem.
Next, we honor scholars from Gamble Montessori High School.
Thanks for having us here tonight. This is our salutatorian, Tony Clark. Tony is a testament to the power of diligence and no-nonsense hard work. As an 11th and 12th grader, he actively participates in class, takes on leadership roles in the classroom readily, and this year even started his own club at school, the Film Analytics Club, that meets weekly to watch and discuss traditionally critically panned movies. He also takes regular attendance and follows up on people who are absent. He's known for selfless acts with his classmates, and he will be attending UC in the fall for biological sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, our salutatorian, Tony Clark. My valedictorian assures me that she is more disappointed than anybody that she is sick, as her summer actually started Saturday and when she graduated, so she is very disappointed to not be able to join us. But she is one of only 2 seniors at Gamble to have taken it upon herself to complete multiple years of college-level work, and was able to do so because of her excellence when completing all the required credits of high school, freeing up every afternoon for 2 years to drive herself to college at UC. Worked so hard this last year as a volunteer, or 2 years ago as a volunteer at Winton Woods Riding Center, that she was offered a paid position working in the barns with the horses. She is sad that she could not be here, but I introduce our valedictorian, Christina Utrecht.
Should we try to get this to her? Next, Hughes STEM High School.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here to introduce our salutatorian. Our salutatorian has been at Hughes for 4 years. He majored in engineering and is also a recipient of the Ohio State Scholars Program, where he will receive a full ride to Ohio State. His plans are to major in mechanical engineering, so he really got an excellent start at Hughes by majoring in engineering. His name is Robert Wade Pearson. Our valedictorian is Destiny Turner. Destiny was also a Hughes STEM student from 9 through 12. Destiny chose to major in the career pathway of health, and she is proud to be attending UC in the fall. She is, has been involved in softball, was also an honor student her entire time at Hughes STEM High School, and she will be receiving the Pride Grant. Destiny Turner, our valedictorian. Thank you.
We now move on to Euler School.
Good evening. First, I would like to introduce our salutatorian, Daniel Barnes. Daniel has attended Euler since preschool, so he has been with us for 15 years. So we are very sad to see him go. Daniel has been a writer for our student newspaper, the Euler Griffin, for 3 years. Last year, he had the opportunity to attend the OU journalism camp in the summer. This year, he was our editor-in-chief, and in the fall, he plans to attend UC main campus, living at the Gen 1 house. Our valedictorian is Precious Gary. She has been a student at Euler since the 6th grade. She started our Euler Glee Club back in 2012. She has participated in community service projects through JCG, including blood drives. She participated in the breast cancer walk and also had the opportunity to do internships in our health clinics this past school year. So she was doing health screenings for students all over the city. And she will also be attending, she'll be attending UC Blue Ash, majoring in business.
Next up, Riverview East Academy.
Good evening. I'm Charlene Myers. I'm the principal of Riverview East Academy. Thanks. And it's my pleasure to introduce our valedictorian, Haley Suter. Haley joined Riverview in her freshman year when I started my freshman year at Riverview East, and so I feel like, we're both seniors at this point, although, of course, I'll be continuing on, hopefully. I see nothing in the board minutes, so I'm sure that's true. But anyway, not about me. Haley is the type of student who all teachers love to have in class. She has been on honor roll since her freshman year and actually was quite miffed when she wasn't on a honor roll and made sure that she did something about it the following quarter. This year in her senior year, she had a very demanding schedule, including taking 2 advanced placement classes, a dual enrollment class, while working through our STNA state-tested nurse assistant program. She also has great leadership skills in which she participated in various activities throughout her high school career, including our Junior Toastmasters, which is sponsored by our Partners in Education, Great American Insurance. She also has played varsity sports. Everybody at Riverview is very proud of Haley's successes. She's worked hard, and her determination will inevitably propel her to great success. She's attending UC, and she will be majoring in nursing. Haley Suter. Nico Brown is our salutatorian. He is unable to be here today, but Nico is one of our more quiet students, very intelligent, capable, personable young man. He was in our college algebra class and made sure to help the students who were in that class. He also held down a job while he was in school, which is very demanding in itself, as I did the same thing when I was in high school. Nico is also a very strong academic student. Nico Brown, salutatorian.
Next, we honor scholars from the School for Creative and Performing Arts.
Good evening. My name is Michael D. Owens, and I am the proud principal at the School for Creative and Performing Arts. And I would like to salute our valedictorian, Ms. Brooke Smith. Brooke arrived at SCPA during her 6th grade year, where she completed a double major of visual and technical theater majors. In addition to taking college courses at BYU, she had a weighted GPA of a 5.13. And she is the ideal student when we're talking about this arts and academic in this hand in glove. She will be majoring in chemical engineering at the University of Cincinnati. Our salutatorian, Olivia Steinkamp, could not make it this evening, but she is also a driven student as well. She is graduating with a GPA of a 5.06, and she was also a dual major at SCPA, majoring in instrumental music and costuming through technical theater. She will be attending the University of Southern California. Congratulations to our valedictorian, Brooke Smith, and salutatorian, Olivia Steinkamp.
We will next honor students from Schroeder High School.
Hello, board members and superintendent. Josh first. I'd like to tell you about our salutatorian, Josh Witt. If most of you all know that Schroeder is I'll say we're best practice for our autism units. So Josh, he was identified as a student with autism. So it really didn't stop him from progressing in just general education classes. Talking to one of his teachers, she said he was a little slow at the reading piece and a little slow at the writing, but he excelled in mathematics and science. And so as Josh, went on, he definitely excelled in math. He was in your AP Calc, A, B, and BC, and he was also in AP Physics. He is going to go to the College of Mount St. Joe, but then he put a spin on it. He actually wants to write a novel. And so I'm pretty sure he would do it with the type of individual that he is. So him not being here today, I would like for you all to honor him with a hand clap and look forward to him. So our valedictorian, Kennerly Moden. As Kennerly comes around, this young lady is a person that really exemplified, true grit. She's been at Schroeder since the 7th grade. She's an individual that has always been on the honor roll. If you ask Kennerly, modestly say, I may not be, the smartest person, but I work hard when it comes to, getting my academics taken care of. She's been in 5 AP classes. From both of the English classes, AP Environmental, AP Psych. She has numerous opportunities to go to various colleges throughout the United States, but she has chosen to stay locally to attend Xavier University. And Xavier was very modest with the funds that they gave to get her there. So I'd like to honor Kennerly at this time.
Next, we have Taft Information Technology High School. A hobbled principal is here to do the honors.
Yes, our valedictorian and salutatorian have kept me so busy trying to keep up with what they're doing. They're the reason I'm hobbling, so good evening, everyone, and I'm just so honored to be able to introduce the valedictorian and salutatorian. I truly am going to miss them because they have embodied what it means to be a Taft Senator. They actually have been friends for many years and have encouraged each other along the way with one other high-achieving student at Taft, and they've actually branded themselves as the triangle of success for those 3 students. And it's evident that this triangle has inspired and motivated them to be scholars, athletes, and more importantly, giving and caring young people. First, I would like to introduce Rico Sanford, who is Taft's salutatorian. Rico has been very, very busy. He has a GPA, his final GPA is a 4.3. He is headed to the University of Cincinnati main campus this fall and will be living in the Gen 1 house. He plans to major in psychology with hopes to become a psychiatrist one day. Rico is president of the C2 Club, which is Taft's college club. He is the senior class president, was prom king, and was president of Jobs for Cincinnati Graduates, and it might as well be president of the United States as well. Under Rico, Jobs for Cincinnati Graduates raised $2,400 for Pennies for Patients, $800 for cancer research, and he also volunteered at Our Daily Bread and raised $1,000 for them as well. He also was the co-captain of the academic team, which I'm proud to say won the CMAC championship this year. Additionally, Rico was the captain of Taft's conference champion football team and captain of the conference championship track team. So I introduce to you Mr. Rico Gordon. Our valedictorian, Miss Denisha Jones, has a current GPA of 4.6. She is headed to the Ohio State University in the fall to study biology with hopes of becoming an emergency room dentist one day. She has a full ride scholarship through the Young Scholars Program. Denisha is the president of Taft's College Club, C2, and president of band, where she has played 4 different instruments. She has played 3 years of softball and has been an intern and is an intern this summer with Cincinnati Bell, our partner in education. Denisha recently won first place in Cincinnati and in the state of Ohio for Students for Service through the Jobs for Cincinnati Graduates program. And so I introduce to you Miss Denisha Jones. Thank you.
And now we have Walnut Hills High School.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us. First of all, the 3 students who will identify all had a GPA of around 5.6 or higher. They all took at least 15 advanced placement weighted courses and never got a B in their experience at Walnut Hills over the 6-year program. They're all National Merit Scholars, and all of them were inducted in the Cum Laude Society this year. So it's just a tremendous group of students, and we're so proud of them. I'd like to start with our salutatorian. We have Gabrielle C. Gabrielle is a very high-level figure skater who has now evolved into a coach for figure skating. She plays the French horn, and this past summer she visited China, where she taught English to Chinese students. Gabrielle will be attending Vanderbilt University to study human and organizational development. Gabrielle C. Next, we have Richard Fu. Richard is an absolutely exquisite cellist. Was first chair in our symphonic or in our string orchestra, chamber orchestra. He participated in a very critical role in our robotics team. The robotics team won the regional, actually won the state, won the regional, went to the world championship, and the team finished 3rd in the world last year, and he was a big part of that team. He also does quite a bit of volunteer work at hospitals in Cincinnati, specifically or in particular the VA hospital. Richard is also attending Vanderbilt, and he'll be studying chemistry and then medicine. Richard Fu. And our second valedictorian, Molly Gilia. Molly is a member of our quiz team. Our quiz team won the regional, went to state, and then qualified for nationals, and they'll be going to Dallas, Texas to compete in the national championship quiz team. She has played varsity soccer as well. She also has been a tutor at South Avondale Elementary School during the summer, working with students in grades 3 and 4, very active in service. Let's see, Molly will be attending Notre Dame, and she'll be studying applied math and computer science. Molly Gilia.
Next, we honor students, top students from Western Hills University High School.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Ronan. My name is Ken Jump, and I'm the principal of Western Hills University High School. And it's my pleasure to introduce our valedictorian, Miss Miracle Flowers. Miracle is a member of the National Honor Society, the Daisy Chain. She serves the school as a senior class officer and student ambassador. Among her many scholarships, Miracle was recently chosen for the Mamie Earls YWCA Scholarship. She was also awarded scholarships from Delta Sigma Theta sorority and the Advocates for Youth Education and the Cheviot Westwood Kiwanis Association. Miracle was accepted into the University of Cincinnati DAP College, where she plans to study fashion, design, and marketing. I introduce you to Miracle Flowers. Our salutatorian was unable to be here tonight, and she sends her regrets. Her name is Hannah Quellen. Hannah has been very active in serving her school and community throughout her years at West High. She is a member of our marching band, a senior class officer, a member of the National Honor Society and daisy chain. She was a member of our varsity softball team and was recently honored with a scholarship from the Price Hill Old Timers Baseball Organization. She was also awarded the Hawksworth Blood Donors Graduate with Distinction and was a finalist for the Anthony Munoz Straight A Scholarship. Hannah will continue her education at Wittenberg University, where she will study psychology. Hannah Quillen.
Next, we honor students with top academic honors at Withrow University High School.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Ronan, Treasurer Wagner. Thank you for allowing us this time to introduce our Tigers. First, I'll start with our salutatorian, Fatim Huatara. Fatim comes to us from the Ivory Coast of Africa. She is one of our international students. She has been at Withrow throughout her 4 years. She's participated in numerous enrichment activities. She is a member of the National Honor Society as well as a member of the Daisy Chain in 2015. She was part of our women's soccer team for 2 seasons. Each year she has participated in our international dinner program. And additionally, she completed an internship at the Cincinnati Metropolitan Sewer District this year. Fatima has applied and been accepted to The Ohio State University, Miami University, Xavier, and UC. She was offered over $80,000 in scholarships from these schools and has been admitted into UC's Gen 1 House program. Fatima has decided to attend the University of Cincinnati, where she will major in international business and communication with an ultimate goal of earning a PhD. Fatim Uataro. Next, our valedictorian is Tamia Saunders. She is a member of our National Honor Society, has participated on the girls volleyball team for the last 2 seasons, and participated in our College Credit Plus program. Tamia is leaving Withrow with 15 hours of college credit through our partnership with Cincinnati State. She has applied to only one college, her #1 choice, where she was accepted. Tamia was accepted into the University of Cincinnati's prestigious DAP program, Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning program. She was offered over $45,000 in scholarship. She will attend this fall. She plans to major in fine arts with an ultimate goal of being a magna artist. Congratulations.
Thank you. While we pause to get that picture right, let's take a moment to honor all the families who are in the audience for all they did to support these top scholars. And finally, we have Woodward Career Technical High School.
Thank you, Janet. Good evening, everybody. I am Shauna Murphy, the proud principal of Woodward Career Technical High School. I'll be brief. My valedictorian and salutatorian are not able to be here tonight, but I would like to tell you about 2 wonderful young men from my school. Jonathan Vargas is our salutatorian. He's not able to be here because he went back home to Puerto Rico before he starts school this fall at the College of Mount St. Joseph. Jonathan was in our Health Technologies Academy focusing on sports medicine. He completed an internship program this year at Yep Fitness in Roselawn, who've done a wonderful job partnering with our school. So we wish Jonathan the best in his endeavors at Mount St. Joe this fall. My valedictorian is Malik Williams. He'll be attending the University of Cincinnati, and he hopes to major in architectural engineering. Probably one of the reasons he's so interested in doing that, under the guise of our building technologies facilitator, Mr. Wes Davis, he and his classmates built a tiny house this year. So very proud of Malik, and I wish him well at UC this fall.
Thanks to all the principals and all the students. We're going to take a group photo, but again, I didn't want to shortchange all the families who are with us tonight. You too share in this honor by all the support that you have given to your top students. We know you're proud, and we're proud of you. Let's take a moment to recognize the families. Now, as the official photographer poses the students for a group shot, if there are any others in the audience who want to come down and snap a photo, now is your time to do so. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, valedictorians and salutatorians. One more round of applause for them. I think I did hear our public affairs director thank our parents and families for your support of our students. We know that it takes an entire village to raise a child, and I appreciate that. I also want to take the time, though, as we're transitioning here, to thank our superintendent and her wonderful team, our principals, and all other staff in support of these bright young people. And so my desire for them would be, as they graduate and move on the next steps of their lives, that they tell the story of CPS and how great of an experience it's been for them, and become successful, return to our community, and help Cincinnati be great. So as they transition, do board members have any comments or questions or anything? Excellent, thank you. Well, we are going to move on. I hope it's okay, because it's a little disruption for me, but we have another presentation. Our final presentation actually is encompassed of two presentations. And so I'm going to turn over the microphone to our treasurer, Jennifer Wagner, who's going to initially discuss a financial efficiency review and our 5-year forecast. Welcome, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. The first I'm going to talk about the financial efficiency review that was conducted this past winter. About a year or so ago, when I was introduced to the business community as the new treasurer of the district, I was asked if I'd be open to having an independent review of our books. There was an effort to understand, because of past forecasts that showed near future deficits, there was an interest to see whether we really did need new money. And so I welcome that opportunity as an opportunity to analyze the finances of the district, as well as to help increase financial support for the district as well. Two questions were being addressed. Was the district being financial efficient and responsible, fiscally responsible with their spending, and whether our forecasts were accurate and efficient. So the study was paid for by a group of business community and some philanthropic and civic organizations. And at this time, I would like to ask two very special partners to come to the podium. Ms. Julia Poston, who's a managing, oh, they're coming this way. She's a managing partner for Ernst & Young in the Cincinnati office, and Brian Ross is in addition to being chairman of the board's audit committee, he also is the owner of Ross Financial Group. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jen, and good evening to the board, Mary. I'm pleased to be here tonight on behalf of the Financial Efficiency Review Committee. While Jen is going to go through the bulk of this presentation, I wanted to share some background tonight that I hope provides additional context on the work that we've done. We began this initiative because we all strongly believe that parents, educators, and taxpayers deserve to have a clear understanding of the financial performance of Cincinnati Public Schools. Although that seems like a straightforward statement, the school funding system in Ohio makes that a complicated undertaking, a fact that you already know, and something that many of us new to the process learned very quickly. To CPS's credit, both the board and the administration recognize that inviting a third-party review of the district's finances would increase accountability and transparency to the public. Throughout this process, Jen and her team have been full partners in this work, providing information and data for the review, but also looking for opportunities to learn how to improve their work and advance the district. We assembled an excellent steering committee. I don't know if I need to do this. Oops. Sorry, maybe not. All right, I'll skip that. We assembled an excellent steering committee for this initiative and strong backing from the business and civic organizations. Some of these organizations included the Cincinnati Business Committee, the Cincinnati Regional Business Committee, the Hale U.S. Bank Foundation, the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, the United Way of Greater Cincinnati, and GE Aviation, just to name a few. While Jen will provide an overview of the review, I did want to mention that there is no question that CPS has some real financial challenges on the horizon. After taking significant steps to right-size and cut cost as enrollment declined over the last decade, we have now reached a time when enrollment has stabilized and is starting to grow, leading to additional costs and more limited opportunities to find savings without impacting investments in academic performance. That's not to say that there aren't opportunities to save taxpayers' money. Certainly there are, and we encourage you to fully pursue those opportunities. Again, thanks for inviting us here tonight and for being strong advocates for this effort. CPS and the public will have some important decisions to make, and we are hopeful that this work will be valuable to the community conversation that will be taking place. Now I'll turn it over to Brian.
As a long-standing member of the Audit Committee, the last three as Audit Committee Chair, it was an honor to be asked to work on this Independent Financial Efficiency Review Committee. One of the Audit Committee's goals is to make sure that the district is running as efficient as possible, as for the benefit of our kids. The process has been beneficial to take a detailed look at the financials of the district and more fully understand its operations. Okay, so we got a steering committee together, and the steering committee who had the opportunity to get feedback as we put out proposals for the work that we were looking to get done. Using the information provided and discussing the priorities of the community and understanding the district's finances, the Financial Efficiency Review Committee selected Parthenon EY to do the work. They had strong experience in conducting this type of work in other large urban districts. In January, they began a 12-week engagement, which wrapped up a few weeks ago. I will turn it over to Jen to provide additional details about how her office worked with Parthenon EY team.
Thank you both for being here tonight. So as Brian said, the Parthenon agreement was a 12-week engagement, and they had sent a team of very intelligent individuals. They spent 3 days a week with us, and they really took an opportunity to understand, instead of just having a bunch of audit team come in and look at data. They took a lot of time to understand Ohio's unique funding formulas and our challenges, as well as looking at 5 years of historical and enrollment data, collective bargaining agreements, contracts. We spent a lot of time together, and we looked at our budgeting methodologies, our forecasting methodologies, and they benchmarked all that data against some other districts inside Ohio, as well as other large districts in the country. So just to give you a summary of their recommendations in their executive summary, they did acknowledge that over the past 10 years, we have reduced our footprint as our enrollment declined. We've tried to be fiscally responsible. We've closed schools. We've reduced staff, depending on enrollment and their formulas. We held salaries flat for 5 years. We've asked all our employee groups not to take a raise for 5 years. And we've done things like change our transportation rules so that we can save money against increasing fuel prices. With recent growth in enrollment, we recognize that there is a stagnant revenue growth that's causing the need for more money in the near future. Revenue stays stagnant. Our local taxes do not increase with enrollment like the state funding formulas do, but the state formula is capped at 7.5% growth, so it makes it a real huge challenge when your enrollment starts to change. The Parthenon study confirmed that our enrollment is growing, and it's expected to grow K-12 at 1% over the next several years. Although when you compare it with our projection for next year, and including our pre-K-12, we're actually increasing by 3%. We're going to calculate at over 35,000 for the first time in many years. Assuming our renewal of the emergency levies that will be coming up, our revenue will only grow about 1%. So we'll have increased expenses that go along with increased enrollment while the revenues are staying flat. And so they've confirmed that there is a need for new money. The last thing I wanted to mention on here is that the preliminary projections of the annual deficit could grow to almost 60 million by the year 21. And that is before we cost out and budget for the expansion of preschool, both inside and outside of the district. They did come up with some cost reduction initiatives, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail in the next coming slides. So I'm sharing with you some of the slides that they've presented. Oops, very touchy. So this slide shows you basically that our revenues are projected to stay flat. The green section on the bottom are the state foundation formula. You can see that it kind of steps up very small according with enrollment. And then the dark maroon color are local share taxes. And the last 3 years in the white shows you the indication of that's when the renewal levies will come into play. Just want to remind you once again that local taxes do not change with inflation or with enrollment, while the state revenue is capped at 7.5% growth per year. So this next slide shows you the challenge that we have. Our Ohio law prevents our property taxes from growing with inflation. They actually went and calculated that had our property tax levies increased with inflation, that we would have received an extra $20 million a year. And so that makes it even more challenging when we're trying to keep up with inflationary costs on the expense side. This slide shows you that where we have been reducing our footprint, the blue line indicates the decrease in enrollment over the last decade. Well, you can see in 2012, I don't know if my little red thing will show up, but in 2012, we actually reversed our enrollment trend and started increasing again. The other lines show the decline in teaching staff. because we use student-based staffing. So as our enrollment changes, our staffing also changes. And then the bottom line shows you, the middle line shows you the change in buildings where we reduced it throughout the facility master plan. Sorry, allergies are making my voice. This slide shows you that, in a nutshell, 80% of our spend is in the schools and not in central office, and 70% of that is based on salaries and benefits. So we have very little controllable costs in our budget. The Parthenon team wanted to look at how are our wages comparative to other districts inside Ohio and outside. So they looked at Newark, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Denver, and you can see the middle blue and the first green graph, the middle lines indicate we're right in the middle of the road in terms of teacher salaries. The graph on the right shows you just the school districts in Ohio, and despite our teachers having longer years of service, so they're more experienced, their salaries are still right there in the middle. So this slide that the team put together shows you that despite without any base salary increases, that our payroll will go up based on step and step for master or different degrees and then length of time. But as we continue to enroll and attract back students to the district, we're going to have to hire more staff so that our salaries will continue to go up, even if we hold salaries flat. That's helping to drive the need for new money. So this shows you the comparison of the revenue and the expenses, where the revenue, you can see in the green bars, stays relatively flat while the expenditures grow minimally, but at a rate that's higher than the revenue growth. So some of the recommendations that the Parthenon team came up with to help reduce costs were two in transportation. One of them was to continue double routing buses. The schools inside the district limit, or the Cincinnati Public Schools, were already double routed. We have early schools and late schools, so our yellow buses will do 2 routes a day. Some of our non-public schools, or the non-CPS schools, their start times prevent us from being double routed, but they are negotiating those times, and so that is recommended to save us about $2 million. And then we're also bringing the routing services back in-house that used to be outsourced. When we can take control of our own routing efficiencies, we anticipate saving another $1 million in transportation for next year. The other 3 recommendations we weren't able to implement right away because of the timing. The purchase services was reducing a 2% cost on our outsourced contracts. What we've done is put a process in place so that as they come up for renewal and the RFP, will start reducing the scope of those costs. And then the last 2 for class size and overload in our school staffing formulas has been referred to negotiations team. And so that is a delicate balance to try to get more efficient with staffing and not harm instruction. We take a lot of pride in having our district outperform the other districts in Ohio because of our elementary staffing. The last recommendation, it was not to cut benefits, but rather to reduce the future growth of costs. Nationally, the medical benefits are projected to increase by 7%. So we're hoping that the the benefits committee will be able to come up with some cost avoidance recommendations. This is a slide just to remind everybody that we have been strategically investing in our students. The My Tomorrow initiative started a couple years ago. We've seen some very early positive results in terms of our ACT composite scores have gone up over the last couple years. 92% of our seniors are already confirmed as enrolled, enlisted, or employed, and that's very positive. We're very excited and proud of that result. Also, anecdotally, the attendance is going up and discipline referrals are going down, so the students are much more engaged in their future careers. We've also started the Preschool Stars expansion this year, where we added, I think, 22 classrooms, if I'm not mistaken, but 350 new preschoolers will be starting with us again next year. So based on the results of the team and their recommended cost savings and the additional strategic costs, they've adjusted the 5-year forecast to show that while we were able to reduce that projected deficit, it doesn't close it completely. And so that we still have our revenues that are slightly smaller than our recommended expenditure, projected expenditures, that can grow to 60 million going out in fiscal year 21. So that does confirm that the district does have a need for new money. So how are we using this information? Well, we've already taken advantage of the transportation recommendations in the next year's budget. You saw a draft budget on April 30th, I believe, and we'll be coming to the board for approval in June. So we've been negotiating with the non-CPS schools to take care of the double routing. I think it's about 56 routes, and bringing the routing in-house. We've changed our budget practice from the previous years where they were copying over budget to budget, and that influenced the forecasting process. One example I can give you is our electricity bills. They used to budget $10 million a year, year over year, and when we looked at the 3-year historical average, we saw that we were spending just under $8 million a year, so we were able to adjust that in the forecast as well as in the budget to get those savings. We actually went back to zero-based budgeting for central office instead of just starting with last year's budget, so that had a huge impact as well. I've already explained that we're going to review each contract as it comes up through its renewal cycle, and so we'll take advantage of those as we move forward. And that the staffing and overload formulas, finding that right balance with academics, is being referred to the negotiating team when those contracts come up for renewal. And then there is a joint membership committee that works on benefits, and so that we're going to challenge them to find future cost savings to avoid that increase in medical benefits. I've already started the process in changing from the old forecasting model to the new forecasting model, and we have some meetings set up to do some deeper dives in the comparison of the two models. I'm also doing a reorganization in the Treasurer's Office to elevate the financial reporting in analytics and transparency, so that we can be more responsive to the public and be more transparent to the public in our financial dashboards and our reporting. The last two things is that we've asked the steering committee that Julia and Brian talked about earlier to continue to monitor our progress and hold us accountable with this study. And in the last meeting, we were talking about benefits. They've actually collected some volunteers from our local businesses to help us with the benefit recommendations. So we're really excited to get some experts in that and their human resource officers to help us with that. So at this time, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody that participated, members of the steering committee, members of the CBC and CRBC. They spent a lot of time helping us in this endeavor, specifically the Hale Foundation, GE Aviation, Greater Cincinnati, United Way, and a ton of Cincinnati Public Schools employees participated in this and donating their time. I'd like to especially thank Gary Lindgren, Christy Phillips, and Audrey Treasure have been immeasurably helpful to this process. So, and if anybody in the audience has been part of this, I'd like to acknowledge you by asking you to stand up. I don't know if anybody's here. Anyway, thank you. So, did board members have any questions about this study?
Yeah, board members, are there questions or comments related to this part of Jennifer's presentation? No?
Okay, then we will switch gears.
Jennifer, thank you for your diligence and your hard work in your team and other administration.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy for a group to come in and take 3 days out of your regular work week, which you still have everything else to do and that. So, but again, what I witnessed as being a part of the group and what you've done was just miraculous. With your attention to the detail that they needed to get their work done.
Right. So no, it was great. I mean, it was a little uncomfortable at times, just welcoming people in, and so it was a lot of time and effort. I jokingly kind of referred to it as root canal because it's painful to go through, but the positive results are excellent. And so
I did hear you say that 3 times. Thank you.
So no, the team was great, and I really appreciate the professionalism and the skills of the Parthenon team. I actually miss having them there. So.
Okay.
Anyway, so we'll transition to the 5-year forecast presentation. Just to let the public know that every school district in Ohio is required to file 2 5-year cash forecasts twice a year, one in October and one in May as an update. And we do public presentations, and then if you approve it tonight, then I have to file it with the state. So just to let everybody know that we have two major revenue sources that come into the district. We have our local shares at 57%, and that's all of our local property taxes and payment in lieu of agreements and tuition. And then on the state side at 43%. The balance is a little bit different than some of our colleague cities because Cincinnati is considered a wealthy district because of our property wealth. So in the state foundation formula, we're only really funded at 43% of the formula. And so our local taxpayers make up the difference. So what I'm doing here is I'm comparing the change from the October forecast to the May forecast in revenue. We had some changes. We're actually projecting a $13 million increase from what we thought in October. And if you recall, when we were doing the forecast in October, we still did not have the state formulas and the updated data from last year in there. So it was very difficult to do an accurate forecast. But we're showing an increase of $10 million in this state unrestricted line. And that has a lot to do with our increased enrollment and the 7.5% foundation growth. And something else I'm drawing a blank on. We'll come back to it. And then we also had a $3.5 million increase where from our E-rate reimbursements. They were so far behind that we took them out of the forecast. We weren't sure we were going to get them, but we actually got our $3.5 million payment in December. So we've been able to add that back to our forecast over the next few years. So here's a slide that shows you how we spend our money instead of how it comes in. We spend 34% on professional services because we outsource our transportation, so it looks a little different than in other districts who own their own buses. And that includes professional services, includes all of our utilities, tuition, and contracted services. Excuse me. The big blue wedge there is our transfer. If you recall, this year we went into the school-wide pool that allows us to commingle our federal funds with our general fund so that the schools can more effectively use those to meet the needs of the students instead of having to worry about which money comes from which fund. And the rest is on wages and benefits and our debt payments. So here's a comparison on the expenditure side of October versus May. Our personnel service costs went up a little bit because of increased enrollment. The employee benefits went down. We realized through this the analytics that we're doing with Parthenon that we're actually overcharging on the fringe rates, and so we're building too much cash in the benefit fund, and so we're reducing those rates, and we've moved that through the forecast as well. We've actually implemented a wellness program and we think is declining our medical costs because we are self-insured. The decline in purchase services is related to tuition being lower than anticipated. For the first time in several years, we've seen charter school enrollment go down, and so that was a benefit to our expense line. We also, when the voucher tuition, the autism and the Peterson Scholarship tuitions were published, it increased from $20,000 to $27,000. We budgeted and forecasted for the full $27,000, which in effect, they're only charging us for the actual tuition that they're paying, and that's about an average of $11,000 per student, so that was a reduction of expenditure. And then the utility, we've had a pretty mild winter, so our utility costs are down. The capital outlay isn't really a reduction, it's more of a reclassification. We used to purchase all of our technology, and several years ago we converted it to operating leases, and so that was kind of a miscoding in the forecast. It didn't catch up, so we're catching it up now. But, so 13 more in revenues, 16 less in expenditures, improves our cash position at the end of the year. So in October, we thought we'd end the year with about a $4 million in cash. Now we think we're going to end with more like $36 million in cash because of the increase of revenue and the decrease in expenses. So now we're going to do the same comparison on the next school year, 16-17. We have the majority of our budget done, so the May forecast reflects the first draft of the budget for the most part. Here we're showing an increase in taxes, slight increase in property taxes, and that same increase in enrollment through the state foundation formula and the fact that we're off the guarantee and on the formula, we are increasing our state formula foundation payments. And then once again, you'll see the $3.5 million is an increase. That's the adding back the E-rate from year to year reimbursement. So we're looking for another $13 million in increased revenue that we projected in October. On the expenditure side, we're showing an increase in increase in personnel because of increased enrollment and the addition of the preschool expansion. It was a $4.5 million expense to the general fund. And then that adjustment in the fringe rate is actually showing through in 17 as well. Purchase services reflects the decline of the reforecast of the enrollment, a reduction of the $3 million in transportation, a reduction in utilities as we convert to actuals. And supplies and materials went up by a little bit because we're reinvesting in some textbooks for the My Tomorrow initiative. And the capital outlay was another restatement of, and a reduction. We didn't anticipate spending $5 million in additional capital. So as we showed an increase in revenue at $13 million and a decrease in expenses, it also has a positive flow on our cash. Here I'm showing you a breakdown of the way the budget is. Because purchase services is such a huge amount for the district, I wanted to show the board and the public how we spend that money. And you can see $100 million of it is spent in tuition, $30 million is spent in transportation, and we have $17 million in utilities, $23 million in other professional services, and $11 million in leases, and that's where the technology operating leases come in. This shows you a breakdown of our supplies and materials. You can see that well over 70% is spent in the classroom versus building maintenance or other supplies. So to finish off the expenditure picture, we're in October, because of the funding formula changes and the state biennium formulas, we anticipated a cash deficit next year of being $72 million. And now we're looking at more like a $7 million cash deficit. Still not closed yet. We're still projecting a deficit. So we hope to be able to convince our voters to go for new money to help our cash position. But we are trying to be fiscally responsible. So I added this slide to show, because we're in the school-wide pool, the monies that we spend on items are actually put into a transfer line, so it makes it a little bit confusing when you compare year over year to salaries and purchases. So I'm showing you that on that transfer line, $187 million of the general fund is being put into that pool to pay for the schools that are Title I schools. And the rest of it is for the $3.2 million in maintenance that we're required to put to maintain our buildings. And then we have some contingency lines for growth in enrollment throughout the year. As enrollment changes and fluctuates, we have to hire new teachers or new classroom aides to meet those demands in the schools. So here's an explanation of how that $187 million of transfer that goes into the general fund, how it's being used. So $132 million of that is on salaries in those Title I schools. And then we put $8 million in Title I and almost $800,000 from Title IIA into that pool. So the whole pool fund is $197 million, $187 million. General fund is 95% of it. So here's a summary picture of what our revenues look like. If you can see visually, it's very similar to what the Parthenon graphs look like, that our revenues stay relatively flat. And then I once again show you that in 19 we have a renewal levy. It's only a half-year levy because it ends in December of 18, so we're in a fiscal year 19. And then the full range of that levy hits in 2020. So that will be a new renewal. And also to explain, the dark green is our state revenue, and the lighter green is our local property tax revenues. So comparatively speaking, same picture as what the Parthenon study showed you, that our expenditures continue to grow, and based on inflation and growth of enrollment and the demands on those costs. Now, I'd like to remind everybody that the state biennium budget only covers fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 17, so we'll be having to analyze a brand new budget. The last 3 budgets had significant changes in their formula, so it's really hard to predict going forward what that might look like for us. This graph kind of compares revenues and expenditures and the impact that it has on a cash balance. So the blue line represents the revenue. The red line represents the expenditures as it going forward, and the green line represents what will happen in the cash balance if we do not get any money. So I would entertain any questions.
Board members, any questions and/or comments? Ms. Bolton?
I don't have a question, but I want to make sure the public knows that the board has heard both of these presentations before, and we're not usually this silent, but we've asked these questions a number of times in the committee of the whole and what have you, and I'm sure everybody's impressed with our treasurer and the work that she has done to put this all together. So we just want to make sure.
Right.
We've already asked our questions.
That's a very good point. Ms. Bates?
Yes, and we also appreciate the presentation because it's so very important for the public to see all of this information and what went into the analysis for the resolution that will be coming up very shortly. That there has been a long and thoughtful process going into our consideration of the possibility of a school levy, and that it was not just a small group or an internal group that made this determination, but it really was an analysis that was conducted, with the oversight of, many constituents that represent community stakeholders. So I did want to point that out, that was a main part of our consideration to move forward with a resolution we'll be bringing forward shortly.
And I would like to add that the 5-year forecast is part of the treasurer's report to vote on tonight, so that I can meet the compliance regulations to get it submitted to the ODE by the end of May.
Correct. Ms. Manera?
Yeah, I just wanted to also make note that out of all the discussion we've had and the public presentation we had at our Wednesday meeting, the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the numbers. In this case, where enrollment is going up, the state is limiting the funds. So as we begin our conversations, it's also exciting to see that the numbers also tell the story of the growth we're doing as a district, where you have been able, in administration, superintendent, and the team has been able to shift the money to where it needs to go. And I think that's just, that should be highlighted, because we're trying to be efficient, but we're not cutting corners when it comes to the education of our children. And we have to make some major adjustments as far as finding place for them, but this is exciting news. And so thank you so much for making sure that the numbers are matching the conversation we're having with the community.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Very well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special public on May 9th.
So moved.
The regular board meeting on May 9th, and the special public meeting on May 12th.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are presented, or approved as presented. Ms. Hoffman, as chair of the policy committee, please present the May 9th, 2016 policy committee meeting report.
Sure. So we had a lot of conversation around our preschool policy. As you know, we've been working on that with input from the full board. I did want the board to make sure that they look at the data around how much it would cost, the impact of financial impact of accepting all students regardless of their ability to pay. It was one of the questions the board asked us to look into. So that data is part of this report, was also provided to the board in their packets. So we'll need to schedule some additional time as a board to talk about that, and if we want to write that into procedure. We also discussed the board input from the May 4th PPE COW on the magnet policy, and then discussed language for policy 5610 around removal, suspension, expulsion, and permanent exclusion of students, where we wanted to align the district's policy with the longstanding practice in our district of not expelling or suspending students who are in preschool through 3rd grade. So we'll be voting on that tonight. And then finally, we heard from the wellness team about some in-depth work that they're doing to try to consolidate 4 different wellness policies into one more comprehensive policy. So they're taking that back with some feedback from us, but we're really excited to bring that forward to you all. So I present the minutes as written.
Do board members have any questions or comments related to the policy committee report? Ms. Bolton, as Chair of the Finance Committee, please present the May 17th Finance Committee meeting report.
Thank you. We did our usual, which is to review the expenditures and revenue on a monthly basis. Also reminded everyone about the budget and the importance of our equity policy. Heard a report regarding the data center upgrade project, which I think we're voting on this evening, as I recall. At great cost, but also at great benefit and reducing risk for the district and the users of the system. But most of our time was spent really talking in terms of some of the financial aspects regarding our partnership with Preschool Promise and what that may mean if indeed part of our levy funds are devoted to this shared vision that we have regarding the expansion of preschool. So we did have the treasurer kind of outline some of the rules, regulations, and best practices regarding the collection and dispersal of revenue. In that meeting, we also went over some important and perhaps informative partnerships, although they may not be the kind of partnership that we need to be creating in order to have this shared vision and accomplish this expansion, but at least they'll give us some guide along the way. We also talked about the importance of, in all of this process, competitive bidding, because it's public dollars. And we also really reviewed some of the major board practices and board policies like supplier diversity, local vendors priority, and minority contractors, and also from another angle that you'll hear tonight, the issue of expulsion and suspension piece that we think needs to be part of this partnership that we're engaging in. And then we had a great presentation from CFT and AFT, particularly as it pertains to Amos's transformative people's platform and what that may mean regarding labor standards and a career ladder and what to do about all of that. And then didn't get to, but have some ideas that were germinating and being expressed regarding what the organizational structure of such a partnership would be. So I submit as written. It was a great turnout for everybody, and we appreciated the participation, and I think it was useful for nearly everyone there. I submit.
Members have any questions or comments related to the Finance Committee report? Thank you very much. Ms. Bolton, as Chair of the Audit Committee, please present the May 17th Audit Committee meeting report on behalf of the Audit Committee.
Great. Fortunately, all I have to do is be a member of that one. We met our chair tonight, Brian Ross, but it's been a few months since we met last, and really we spent much of our time introducing new administrators from the financial side of the house. Also, the treasurer updated the audit committee regarding the performance audit from the state auditor, and also the results of the Parthenon review, which you heard tonight. And then also she shared as well the 5-year forecast, and we tried to get some input and discussions regarding both the technology transition that's about to happen in this district, the financial technology piece, particularly from SunGard, and also tried to get some input from our audit committee, independent audit committee, regarding the Preschool Promise and CPS partnership. I submit as written.
Thank you. As board chair, I will present the committee of the whole report, and that meeting took place, and I thought I was prepared, on May 18th. And there we heard the information related to the 5-year forecast, and that is when we really did a lot of digging in and a lot of time to get our questions answered. We also talked about preschool. We talked about some of the things that are what we consider a shared vision related to the resolution that we'll talk about later on this evening, and I present this report as written. Are there any questions or comments related to the report from the Committee of the Whole meeting? We need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Great. If we have one kudo, we can do one kudo. Does anyone have one kudo? Mr. Knapp.
I have a kudo. Data High School 7th grade mathematics teacher, Demetra Jones, Ms. Jones was honored by the Hamilton County Education Foundation for outstanding teaching on May 13th of this year. Ms. Jones, a lead teacher, was nominated for the honor by the Data High School Assistant Principal Amy Ucker, and the breakfast event marked the 10th year the foundation has recognized outstanding educators from the Cincinnati Public School District in Hamilton County. And kudos to Ms. Jones.
Thank you very
And
much.
Mr. Nems, we have a great picture taken at the event.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Bates, please present the retirements.
Yes, from our certificated personnel, these are the retirements for this meeting. Anita W. Burke, Penelope A. Greenler, Kamla Jindal, Cedrina Leathers, Irma Jean Kidd, and from our civil service personnel, Teresa During, Thomas Gray, Carol Lackey, and Patricia Sampson. We thank you for your service to our students, and we wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thank you. We should give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Moving on, we are now at the item on our agenda for hearing the public. Each speaker has 3 minutes, and Mrs. Wagner at the end of the table will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up. We'll ask you to please refrain from discussing any personnel items. When your name is called, please come to the lower podium. So there are cameras here, but we're going to ask you to come to the lower podium to speak. Before we call the first speaker, though, I do want to update the community on a couple things related to our conversation with the Clifton Cultural Arts Center. We absolutely want to thank supporters of the CCAC for expressing to the board their strong support on the cultural arts as a vibrant part of their neighborhood. Over the past several weeks, we've also heard that many residents of Clifton, as well as those in the communities of Clifton Heights, University Heights, Fairview, and Spring Grove Village equally value quality public school options serving their neighborhood. On May 12th, members of the CCAC board, along with some representatives of the Clifton Town Meeting and Fairview Clifton German Language School, LSDMC, held a cordial, productive face-to-face meeting. We exchanged information and perspectives and agreed to continue the conversation with the goal of finding a solution that honors the community's twin values for quality education and the arts. Over the coming weeks and months, we intend to do what some who've addressed the board on this matter have recommended. Take the time to fully engage parents, CCAC supporters, and neighborhood residents around this matter. In June, we'll do just that. We'll begin that engagement by meeting with prospective parents of a new neighborhood school, and we also will be reaching out to CCAC and neighborhood leaders and residents. We are optimistic that with so many passionate, creative people working collaboratively, we eventually will arrive at a solution that is in the best interest of all. Our first speaker will be Grace Royalty, followed by Eric Urbis, followed by Gary Robbins.
Hello, my name is Grace Royalty, and I will have 3 boys squeezed into Fairview next year. That's supposed to be a joke. If there's one thing that I've learned from being a mother of boys, is they have no sense of personal space. We are a minority at Fairview, and I know you look at me and think, what kind of minority is she? But we are part of the 20% of Fairview families that actually live in Clifton. I don't know if you're familiar with the work that Harvard is doing with implicit bias. Implicit bias is essentially a preference for one group over another, whether it is female, male, white, black, gay, straight, young, old, or fat, thin. And one of the cures for implicit bias is to spend more time around people who are not like you. That is one of the main reasons we chose CPS for our children and camped out for a spot at Fairview. At the last meeting, someone was here as a representative of the My Tomorrow program, showing the children from different schools together on Fountain Square. Elisa, you called it a celebration, and it was, but she kept referring it to as a collaboration. And really, that is how we make all of this work best. Collaboration between the board, the administration, the schools, the parents, and the communities. Right now, in Clifton, we have a wonderful collaboration between the CCAC, the Clifton Rec Center, and Fairview. It is this beautiful trifecta of mind, body, and spirit. But we also understand that you have a problem, and it is a beautiful problem. More families want their children to be a part of CPS than you have room for. And we understand that a neighborhood school in Clifton could be a solution to that problem. And it sounds like we're about to embark on a series of meetings which will bring us together in collaboration. And I appreciate that you're going to take the time to collaborate with the Clifton and the Cuff communities, along with our kissing cousins down in Northside, to make sure that it's the best solution. Thank you for taking the time to build support in public meetings and meetings in people's homes, just as you did in Hyde Park. I offer you my own personal time, talents, and my home, but I have to warn you, if you come to my house, you may end up with a boy sitting on your lap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eric Urbis, followed by Mr. Gary Robbins, followed by Mr. Michael Port.
My name is Eric Urbis. I am the president of the Clifton Town Meeting. I'm going to read to you an open letter that was passed by Clifton, Cuff, and Spring Grove. Dear Superintendent Ronan, President Copeland Dansby, and members of the Board of Education, we request that you delay any action on the CCAC lease until after the passage of the November 2016 levy. Given CPS's recent statements that they would like to create a neighborhood school serving Spring Grove, Village, Cuff, and Clifton with the support of families and residents in our neighborhoods, we believe that an informed community engagement process must take place among the people, institutions, and other stakeholders in our three communities. Recognizing the value of extensive engagement among schools and the communities which they serve, CPS invested the time and resources to undertake a series of hands-on engagement meetings for the construction or renovation of each of the schools as part of the 10-year facilities master plan. If a new neighborhood school is to be created, a similar community engagement process is imperative. We are currently in the process of planning such an informed community engagement process and invite CPS to take part. Taking a longer-term view will allow time for our communities to build trust, engage partners, establish relationships, explore all the possibilities, and build coalitions. We want to be a partner with you and work hard to create diverse, highly successful public education opportunities representative of our neighborhoods, but it will take time to achieve this. Representatives from Clifton Town Meeting, Clifton Cultural Arts Center, and the Fairview German Language School have been meeting for several months to address the concerns of the community in regards to access to quality public educational seats and the potential loss of our community arts center. In the last few weeks, preliminary conversations have been established between Spring Grove, Village, Cuff, and Clifton. We want to invest the time and effort along with CPS to ensure the success for all our neighborhoods. Matters of education are extremely important in the life of our neighborhoods, as are the arts and a strong sense of community that the CCAC has built. For a neighborhood school to be successful, it will need buy-in from the parents and residents in the community. The necessary time needs to be taken to gather and assess the data, confirm demands, solicit input from families and residents, provide answers in regards to the community stakeholders in our areas. We are concerned that creating a neighborhood school without such an authentic, informed engagement of the community does not provide the base of support that it will need to succeed. Our community councils and volunteers offer to be the foot soldiers for community engagement, recruiting and rallying support for the process. Again, we request CPS delay action on the 2005 CCAC lease until after the passage of the November 2016 levy. To alleviate the short-term enrollment concerns at Fairview, CCAC has offered to provide 3 classrooms essentially at no cost to CPS for music, art, technology. I thank you for your time. I applaud your efforts. I think we have a wonderful issue to solve. I hope we can work together.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Robbins, followed by Mr. Michael Port.
Hello, my name is Gary Robbins from Spring Grove Village. I'm Community Council President. It's been a while since I've been down here. As some of you know, our neighborhood was down here a lot when you were going through the process of dealing with the school we had in our neighborhood, Winton Montessori. But it seems we only come down here when we have issues that we care about. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. Our neighborhood would be a big beneficiary of having another neighborhood school as an option for our parents. So I certainly don't want to see that option go away, because I think our neighborhood parents would really like that. I'm concerned tonight after hearing about the budget that we might not have enough money to invest in more in another school, but I'm hoping you find the money to be able to add another school to the system to benefit our neighborhoods. So, as you know, the Clifton area has some unique concerns with the physical placement of a school next to the Arts Center there. Our neighborhood got involved with the issue only just recently, but we, as neighbors to them, we share their concerns too, and we want to be involved in any dialogue and process that you have with regards to meeting with the communities on that. So we look forward to that opportunity. Specifically, next month at our June Community Council meeting, I haven't reached out to you to ask about that specific date. It'll be June 14th. We'd like to invite our neighborhood parents, especially, to join us for that meeting to have a discussion about what this new school might look like and what it would mean for our neighborhood parents. So collaboration, I think, is the word, and we're looking forward to collaborate with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Port, followed by Elizabeth Hopkins, followed by Jovian Mosley.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank all of you for the great work that you're doing. Please understand that everyone in this city really appreciates everything that you do. My wife and I have owned a property in Clifton since 1962, so we've been paying taxes there for 44 years. And I would like to invite you personally to come and spend some time inside the Clifton Cultural Arts Center to see what we're talking about. If you came there on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock, you'd find a class of preschool children singing. They are just incredible to watch and to listen to. And at the same time, a class of adults are studying Pilates. And then if you came to my class at 10 o'clock in Tai Chi, you would be welcome, because it's a free class to everyone in the community. And I feel that what we're doing there is so valuable that I'd like to invite you to come in and look at the building. One of the things that you'll be impressed with is a bronze plaque in the lobby. If you walk in and turn to your right on the southeast wall, there is a bronze plaque giving the history of this building. And the first thing it says is that this building was bought by the people of Clifton. The people of Clifton bought this land and donated it to the Reeser School in 1904. And then the Reeser School in 1906 donated this land to the Board of Education for the Clifton School. That's the history. And it reminds me of a folk song that we could all sing together. This building's your land. But when I walk into the center and I see everything going on there, I realize that this land belongs to you and me. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Elizabeth Hopkins, followed by Jovian Mosley, followed by Miss Julie Sellers. President Julie Sellers.
Suddenly, I'm extremely nervous. I probably shouldn't be. My name's Elizabeth Hopkins. I am here on behalf of my son, who is 3, Ezekiel, and my daughter, who is 1. I'm also working in conjunction with Troy from the Amos Project and really hoping for the beauty that I believe will come from the shared levy. For me, the shared levy is extremely important. I'm a homeowner. I don't mind paying an extra $300 a year in taxes to ensure that on the front end, we get our children educated properly. Everybody has a chance. Everybody has a chance. I'm from Northside, one of the kissing cousins, and I believe that a lot of the people who live in Northside, they can't afford to pay for preschool. A lot of the kids that I see don't have the same opportunities that some other kids do. And I believe that if we as a city could be first in this in the nation, we would also be a model for other cities, as we've been first in a lot of things before in the nation. And the nation has looked to us for some guidance before. And I really hope you guys are able to vote with your heart and with the best intentions of our kids in mind and with our future in mind as well. And I trust that you will. So I'm really excited for the outcome. So thank you for having me and listening to me and considering Preschool Promise and the shared levy. So thank you.
Thank you. Jovian Mosley, followed by President Sellers.
They can't see right. Javon Mosley, hey.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley.
Making an effort to solve various issues for our children it's not a they situation, it's not a them situation, it involves us, all of us. Mothers, fathers, aunts, guardians, developmental facilities, communities, neighborhood schools, all of us. We are the positive networks and partnerships creating a new narrative for our children, an educational map and consistency, which we know today can produce valedictorians. And I know I'm gonna say it wrong, solidarians, but we know when we take, this big jump, this leap of faith, we can produce bigger people that are gonna make bigger decisions that ultimately impact our lives. Today, you guys are going to talk about, or your resolution on expanding quality school options, strengthening neighborhood schools, the expansion of preschool in the CPS, and just the community-based providers, us coming together, us working together. This the big picture. And if we start it now, our children will know that when they get bigger. He'll be 5 next month. Like, bringing him out here is showing him that there are people. He might not get it now, but he'll remember that when he's older. We care about y'all education. And tonight, like Miss Elizabeth said, this first in the nation. We started with the police and the violence in the streets a couple years back. But today, we have the chance to start with education here in Cincinnati, which starts here and goes other places. Yeah, it's been other places, Quebec, Canada, Montreal, but Cincinnati is the birthplace of dreams. There are a lot of dreams here in Cincinnati. Entrepreneurs, this is the birthplace of everything. And tonight could be the best night of our lives, but not just our lives, their lives. And when we in wheelchair lives, we can start something new tonight. We were told that faith is the side of a mustard seed can move any mountain. There's a lot of seeds in here. It's time to move this mountain. It's time for us to work together all around the board, because our time is slowly fading and these little creations, I ain't gonna say creatures, are coming, and we have to make sure that their minds are ready for this world. What can go wrong? What can happen? We have to teach them when they start developing, which might help a lot of things. Let's do this. Tonight is our night to make a change. Board, you guys are awesome.
Thank you. President Sellers, along with Megan. I'm sorry, I don't know Megan's last name. It's not listed. But I did meet Megan the other day.
This is Megan Stockhausen, and she is a
Spell it
senior.
for me, please. I'm sorry.
Stockhausen, and she is a senior associate specializing in early childhood with the American Federation of Teachers. And this evening, we want to make sure that we want to talk about the early childhood workforce career pathways. And we want to emphasize that today that the need for the creation of a separate workforce development board for pre-K is very important, and we need to have one entity cannot manage everything with proper oversight and a robust checks and balance system. And we believe that this should be an independent workforce development committee who would report directly to the board.
Yep. So just for context, nationally, Ohio is certainly not alone. The early childhood education workforce is chronically underpaid, underappreciated, and often has minimal opportunities for professional growth. And this, I can't stress enough that this is through no fault of its own. On the federal level, early childhood education has been underfunded for years. The Child Care and Development Block Grant, as well as the Early Head Start and Head Start programs, are coming nowhere near to the funding levels they would need to serve all children. We know that currently the median wage for early childhood educators is nearly 40% lower than it is for similarly qualified workers in all other occupations. Only 15% of early childhood educators have employer-sponsored health insurance. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average pay for a preschool teacher is $11.39 an hour in Ohio. With such low wages, it is incredibly difficult to retain a high-quality workforce. And I'm sure everyone here agrees that having a well-prepared and supported early childhood educator is crucial to the quality of pre-K programs. The early childhood education workforce is disproportionately female and disproportionately women of color. This, with low wages and chronically high levels of turnover, you have in the private childcare sector, childcare and early learning sector, you have turnover coming close to 30% nationally. Unless you tackle workforce issues and give the supports needed for a high-quality workforce with opportunities for growth, high-quality services will be hard to obtain.
And I want to emphasize the importance of creating the pre-K expansion structures for the workforce And there are many duties. I just want to list a few of them, and I do have a report here that I can give to each one of you. It would provide a high-quality professional learning and development that meets the requirements for a child development associate credential. It could provide mentoring conducted by pre-K kindergarten teachers employed by CPS and certified to teach in classrooms in Ohio, with coordinated observations of model pre-K classrooms in Cincinnati Public by teachers and paraprofessionals working in participating private preschool with the private preschool providers. There would be alerting, we could alert participating preschool providers when they are out of compliance with workforce standards, and also alert the board and its delegates, the Early Learning Workforce and Development Committee, as to which participating providers are not in compliance. This would make sure that all children and all employees are at the highest quality. Reporting to the board and its delegates the funding necessary for preschool providers who are out of compliance into compliance with workforce standards, and develop an early learning career ladder that includes a base wage of $15 per hour with increasing higher education levels. There would be a wage parity with CPS, and I know that this is something that is very important with the People's Platform. It would give great teachers a great service, and it would be an expansion of the structures that are needed to make sure that this is done in the most appropriate manner. I also want to talk about how this could become a model for the nation, because every model out there has some parts of it that are not really up to par with having the highest quality preschool. And we believe that this would put Cincinnati as a top model for having many ESSA opportunities. And by investing in the workforce with structures that are dedicated to workforce issues, Cincinnati will position itself to take advantage of public funding opportunities that are going to be increasing in the future. And there are increased opportunities through ESSA for collaborative planning and professional development, as well as many preschool development grants, that these structures must be in place in order to have the highest possibility of receiving those grants. We need to position Cincinnati educators, no matter what setting they are in, to be able to take advantage of increased public funding for planning and have alignment, collaboration with the K-12 school system, and have professional learning. Are there any questions? And I do have a copy of this that is well footnoted of other models within the United States.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We shared this at the Finance Committee, and we wanted to make sure that the other members of the board also had an opportunity to see it.
Thank you for that day and today.
Thank you.
I am bringing forward a resolution for board consideration. This is a resolution declaring the necessity of levying a tax for college and career readiness, increasing access to technology, expanding quality school options, including strengthening neighborhood schools, preschool expansion in CPS, as well as through community-based providers, and general operations due to the growth in enrollment in excess of the 10 mil limitation, and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection therewith. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion and comments? And before I open it up for discussion and comments from my colleagues here, there are a couple things that I do want to mention. Earlier this evening, we heard findings from a thorough financial review of the district's finances overseen by members of the business community. We also listened to a presentation from our esteemed treasurer, Jennifer Wagner, on the 5-year forecast of the district's finances. Both show that after cutting costs and going 8 years without new taxes, CPS needs additional local revenue to ensure that children enter kindergarten prepared, receive great teaching and up-to-date technology throughout their schooling, and of course, graduate prepared for success in college and in the workforce. As the financial forecasts show, the consequences of not seeking additional revenue would be stark. At the same time, with our partnership with Preschool Promise, we have a historic opportunity through this levy to bring people together in a powerful way to expand access to preschool while strengthening our public schools, giving more children a great start to great schools. If approved by voters, this resolution lays the groundwork for a levy of $48 million annually, of which $15 million annually would be devoted to expanding quality preschool and CPS, as well as with community-based providers. Ultimately, this investment is about more than the Preschool Promise and Cincinnati Public Schools. This investment represents success for Cincinnati. Ms. Jones. It is a strong vision for our community to begin to break the cycle of poverty and prepare students for life from early childhood through graduation and beyond. This opportunity represents a commitment by all to quality, equitable education and choice for children and families. It has the potential to transform lives, strengthen neighborhoods, and improve the economic vitality of our community. And as being a community member and a member of this board, and having served the greater Cincinnati community more than 25 years in social services, it is my firm belief that moving children and families out of poverty, the way to remediate that is through education. Are there any comments and discussion? Ms. Bolton.
I think it would be beneficial to read the resolution.
Sure.
I think because I don't know where you want to start, but I think that would be useful.
I really don't like that round robin thing. So how about Ms. Hoffman, can you take the first, 5 whereases, and then maybe Mr. Manera can do the next?
Sure.
Just to finish page 1.
Yep. Whereas this Board of Education anticipates levying a tax levy in excess of the 10 mil limitation as described herein, and whereas the Board of Education is committed to transparency and accountability, we invited the local business community to conduct an efficiency review of our finances. And whereas members of Cincinnati's business community have completed the comprehensive study of Cincinnati Public Schools' financial operations and found CPS faces a deficit that will potentially grow to $60 million annually in 5 years, and whereas the need for additional quality preschool within the area served by the Cincinnati Public Schools District has been validated by the RAND Corporation, and whereas after 8 years with no new operating levy, at a time of increasing enrollment, continued cutting will reduce CPS investments in student achievement, workforce preparation, and prevent critical new investments.
And whereas this Board of Education anticipates using the revenues generated from the tax for preschool expansion in CPS, as well as throughout the community-based providers, expanding quality school options, including strengthening neighborhood schools, preparing students for college and careers, investing in technology and general operation costs, and whereas this levy offers a shared vision and a path forward to provide our community a unique chance to bring people together in a powerful and historic way to transform the lives of our children and their families. Together, Cincinnati Public Schools and the Preschool Promise can both significantly expand access to preschool and strengthen our K-12 public school system, giving more children a great start and a great school. And whereas this Board of Education will apply $15 million of the proposed levy proceeds towards the expansion of quality preschool through Cincinnati Public Schools and the community-based providers. And whereas the levy is critical for a well-prepared workforce, more economic opportunity, stronger neighborhoods, and Cincinnati's future. And whereas pursuant to Section 5705.03 of the Ohio Revised Code, this Board of Education is required to certify the county auditor a resolution requesting the county auditor to certify certain matters in connection with such a tax levy.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the City of Cincinnati School District, the City School District of the City of Cincinnati. Section 1, that the amount of revenue which may be raised in this school district by all tax levies which this school district is authorized to impose, when combined with all revenues to be received from the state of Ohio and the federal government, will be insufficient to provide for the emergency requirements of the school district. Section 2, that pursuant to the provisions of Section 5705.194 of the revised code, it is necessary that an additional tax be levied in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the benefit of this school district for the emergency requirements of the school district in the amount of $48 million each year for a 5-year period. Section 3, that the question of the passage of said levy shall be submitted to the electors of the school district at an election to be held on November 8th, 2016. If approved by the electors, said tax levy shall be placed up on the 2016 tax list and duplicate for first collection in calendar year 2017.
Section 4, that the treasurer of this Board of Education be and is hereby directed to certify forthwith a copy of this resolution to the county auditor at least 95 days prior to said election as required by law, so that said county auditor may calculate the annual tax levy, which will be required to produce the annual amount set forth in Section 2 hereof in accordance with Section 5705.195 of the Ohio Revised Code, so that the county auditor may certify to this Board of Education the total current tax valuation of the school district in accordance with Section 5705.03 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 5, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of this Board of Education concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this Board of Education, and that all deliberations of this Board of Education and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code and the rules of this Board of Education adopted in accordance therewith.
Are there any other questions from board members? Comments? Ms. Hoffman?
Yeah, I think I just want to comment on all of the work that was put into getting to the point where we are tonight of putting this resolution forth. So a thank you to Superintendent Ronan and her team for all of the hours and the analysis that they put into it, to Treasurer Wagner, and we stated earlier all of the work that went in to the project that she worked on with Parthenon, and also to all of the folks that are here from the Preschool Promise Night who have been working for years now to get us to this point. So thank you to them as well. And I think together, as one of our speakers said, we have a really historic opportunity to make such an impact on our kids. And so it did really take so much work from so many different corners for us to get to this resolution tonight. So I wanted to make sure we acknowledged and thanked everyone who got us here.
Ms. Jones?
I'd also like to say, and I'm going to be very brief, the word transformation keeps coming up, and I just want that to simmer a little bit, because that means a lot. And this is about all kids. And this transformation that I think that this resolution leads us to is going to create that scenario that the young lady with the young guy was talking about, and the mention of great start to great schools.
Ms. Bates?
And I agree with both of my colleagues about what kind of transformation we're discussing. We're also, in this resolution, putting forward the request for funding for transformation in K-12. I mean, we are going to be, if this is passed by our citizens, increasing technology. We're going to be increasing the quality programming and expansion of our neighborhood schools, which is in high demand as far as the requesting from our constituency as one of their priorities. This is going to include just opportunities for our children and our citizens in increasing numbers. The city of Cincinnati is increasing its population. There's a movement in city government to increase housing. We have to be prepared to increase the capacity of our district to accommodate the growth of this city. This is not a remediation plan. This is a plan for growth.
Mr. Manero.
Echo that, but also highlight just the incredible progress that we've done with My Tomorrow and the need to continue to improve that. I mean, to me, that's the story that this levy tells. Is all the others are plus and great and great add-ons, but the fact that our K-12, like Ms. Bates said, has making great progress. Our schools are improving. People are moving into our neighborhoods, and we need to continue that. We need sustainability. It's just way beyond that what we can do where we are right now. So kudos to the administration to continue to push a great curriculum that has allowed us to get to a point where we're asking for support to the great systems that are already taking place, to a great transformation that is going to occur. And so we got to celebrate this district for all the achievements it's done.
Mrs. Bolton.
Thank you. Of course, agree with everything that everybody's been saying, and I do think this transformation piece is critical, and I do know in these last decade particularly, the district's been transformed, the leadership of the superintendent and the deputy superintendent, to even get us to this place where we could be talking about this kind of thing. And it's not only the preschool partnership, but it is also the fact that throughout this resolution, the things that we're citing are things that we're on that path now through a great deal of effort. But more particularly, when we talk about the neighborhood schools and we're talking in terms of the technology and we're talking in terms of some of the other things that are part of this levy proposal, these are things that the community is requesting. And having been on the board now for the 9th year, I remember new money in '08 and then a number of renewals. But the reality for this is that this is actually a community-driven resolution. It's a community-driven levy where we are answering the needs and the requests of the community. And it's not just an imposed one that our top educators or this board thinks is needed, but we have heard what the community is interested in seeing in our district. I would only ask, I do have a point of clarification. Throughout this resolution, it's mentioned annually or for a year or what have you, but where the $15 million reference in the 8th whereas, I would suggest a question as to why the word annually is not there, because it was in our opening statement, so there seems to be some interest in it being that. I didn't know if it was a oversight or if there's a reason that we have that.
It was an oversight.
Thank you.
It would be wonderful if a board member could add that.
That would be useful. Then there will be no question about what is the expectation and the hope that we have, and also help the treasurer kind of have a sense of what's going to be expected, and it'll also tell us what money we won't have to do other things, but focus entirely on preschool. Well, thank you, and I thank the president for kind of helping me get informed about that earlier.
Most certainly. Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Copeland Dansby?
Aye.
I think that's an applause line.
I do too. Mrs. Bates, will you please present the resolution for board consideration?
Number 3. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I have a resolution adopting new board policy 5112.01, entrance requirements for preschool. I present this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comment? Ms. Bates?
Yes, I have a couple, and I guess this is a reason why we, put this through committee and vet it with the full board and then vet it in public, because I still need to vet a couple of things. In our second to the last paragraph, in the red line version of the new policy 5112.01, I would like to strike In general, the Early Childhood Department assigns students to funded or non-funded preschool vacancies on a first-come, first-served basis. I would recommend striking that, because if it didn't work for magnet schools, why would it work for preschools? And also, we had talked about aligning our practices, and if there are more applications within an application period, we can do the same thing for preschool as we do for magnet schools and for high schools, instead of having one system here and one system there, which only serves to confuse our constituents. So again, my recommendation is to delete that sentence that starts in general, and then the administration can work on a policy that more closely aligns with our current practices in enrollment.
Just, can you, some of us don't have the red line copy, so where, help.
Enrollment in the second paragraph.
Inside?
Yes, under enrollment, it's the second paragraph, and it's the line that begins in general.
Oh, I got you, okay.
Can I respond to that? Because we discussed this at length in committee.
Let me just be clear on the question, on the suggestion. You're wanting to remove the entire final sentence.
Yes.
Got it.
And then work.
Ms. Hoffman.
Yeah, so we discussed at length in committee what to do about, how kids are assigned. We have more kids than we have seats for, et cetera. And so we discussed this at length. Should we do a lottery like is done with our other enrollment processes for our neighborhood and our satellite sites? And Assistant Superintendent Sprodnax was able to explain to us how her team sits down with, and I did not know this beforehand, but they sit down with literally every single family and have the individualized conversations with them to match the families to the best sites for them. And that if we moved to a lottery, we would lose that opportunity. And so Andrea's here tonight if we have like technical questions about how that works. But it's not as simple as, the rest of it is, for a high school, you list your high school choices. For this preschool, they talk about matching, the funding that they're having, but also geographic needs and program needs. And I mean, they really have extensive individualized conversations with every family. And so kind of throwing everyone into a lottery just doesn't work the same for preschool.
Ms. Bates.
But that's not what this says. This says first come, first serve. And
Right,
that's
so-
not what you're describing. I would be in support of the process that you're describing, but first come, first serve is, to our public, means standing in line and camping out.
So that's why we tried to include the first part here about how they assign preschool based on a family's state of preference, the eligibility, the geographic convenience, and how they're doing it currently is first people who come in are the first people that they serve. And so that's how they're doing it currently. And so we kept that in place because that reflects the current process.
Suggesting that we take it out because of increased awareness around our programs that, it didn't work before, why would it work now? And I agree with the first part of it, but I can't support first come, first serve for preschool or any of our programs. I just think that, again, it didn't work for other programs. I can't imagine how it would.
Ms. Jones.
Would a suggested
That's what I was gonna ask. What is your
strategy or change would be, because I think that first come, first serve, the way I'm understanding it, is kind of reminds us of that old, and we don't want to go there. Okay. So if we said exactly, write it up exactly the way you, Board Member Hoffman said, and that is that the district sits down in attempt to meet with every family to match the need to the school. Would that satisfy what you're looking for?
That's fine with me. We can say after geographic convenience, the early childhood department will work with families for the best placement for their child. I think that would be a better way to approach it if the board is amenable to that change.
I understand that.
Yeah, I think we want to be careful with the wording, because one of the things we also didn't want to do was as more preschools available through hopefully passing this levy. If we end up having thousands upon thousands of kids. We don't want to write into policy that our EC team will work with every single family. So I think if we want to include a line like that, we just want to make it broad enough.
Yeah, it sounds to me like there needs to be a little bit more work with this particular paragraph, so I'm going to suggest that we take it back to policy. I'm sorry. I don't want to take a vote and see something negative happen, because I don't think that's the intent. It's just clarification.
And I have another concern, not concern, but what seems to be an omission. What about open enrollment in preschool? And I'll give you an example. We have a Montessori preschool classrooms that we're going to be opening in John P. Parker. If they're not filled, if somebody from MedPace wants to pay tuition who lives out of district to fill up that slot, will we allow them to do that? Under what circumstances would we allow open enrollment for preschool? And if we did allow open enrollment for preschool, would those children automatically progress to K? And that's not been addressed. And I'm sure we have open enrollment students currently in our preschools, and will they be handled like district children?
I believe the only children we have in our preschools who are out of district are employees' children. Just because there were so few slots, we have not done open enrollment at preschool.
But will they progress, and do we have a policy supporting that? And do we want to say are we going to say that employees' children are going to be allowed? I mean, I think we need to have that.
I would assume that would be in our open enrollment policy.
Yes, it's addressed in the open enrollment policy. Yes, they can progress, but I think they're like number 7 or number 8 on the list.
Yes, we've had extensive conversations related to that. So I think what they're saying is your second point is covered in an open enrollment policy,
It is.
not necessarily here.
Okay, as long as it's covered somewhere, I'm good with that.
Okay. I still, though, want to send, I'm sorry, Policy Chair Hoffman, I know you've worked day and night with this, but we want to get it right, and so if you will accept it back, then we'll.
Okay.
Yes.
On the, just for clarification, we did talk previously in the policy committee about the issue of preschool, open enrollment and whatever. Is it addressed in the open enrollment policy regarding preschool?
I don't think we call it preschool specifically, but it's, I mean, we're looking at our open enrollment policy in June already.
Right.
So we can make sure preschool is in there. I think just in general, when we say you can only enroll if there are spots.
That's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
And there haven't been any spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Jones.
I'd like to offer, and I may have mentioned this in the policy meeting, I think in the attempt to really clarify each one of these policies as its own procedure, that one of the things that we may have not done as well is looked at the fluidity across policies. And so I don't know, that's just a thought that I had, because it sounds like that in an attempt to clarify it, we're not sure how one policy impacts the other. You follow where I'm going with this?
It sounds to me like you guys are having a policy committee meeting right now, and so I'm going to just suggest that this go back.
I don't want to do that, but I guess what I'm saying is that I would support us going back.
Yes, please.
To that.
We'll do that.
Should we table? Do we
I think
vote
we're
to table.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Take a vote to table this.
Same time vote to table it. So 5112, we only need to vote on if we had passed 5112-01.
Okay. So I'm going to need
to table both of
I'm
them.
going to need to take a vote to table the resolution for board policy, adopting new board policy 5112.01, along with the resolution amending board policy 5112. Because they're both going to go back to policy for further discussion and will come back to the full board. We can do that through a PPE Cal. And so, Ms. Wagner, call the roll.
This is a vote to table, right?
It's a vote to
Well,
table.
I moved, are you moving it?
I moved it, so I need a second.
And I'll second it.
Okay. First time for that.
Or
one.
do we have to, What do we do with my motion?
That's what I was just checking with legal counsel. I think by consensus, you can table it without a vote.
Right. Okay, all in favor then? Aye. Okay, that was painful. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. No more pain, y'all. Mrs. Hoffman, will you please present the next resolution for board consideration?
Sure. I present a resolution amending Board Policy 511301, Schools of Choice and Magnet Schools Interdistrict Enrollment, and we are changing it to Board Policy 511301, Preschool and Elementary Magnet School Enrollment, and I present it as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion and/or comment? Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Can I have some, we've just been working on this for so long. I just wanted to, for public knowledge, make a comment about, we've been working on this for months, months and months and months. So this policy is the end of a lot of research and analysis and community engagement and board conversation and discussion. So much like when Treasurer Wagner was up here earlier and we had no questions for her, I wanted to make sure that the public understands that we don't have kind of any more input right now because we have had extensive conversation about this policy for months now. And also that this is the policy that we're writing based on the best information we have right now, but it also will be part of the policy committee's work plan to review annually. So as we get more data, as we get more feedback, we'll continue to review this policy.
Thank you, Policy Chair Hoffman. Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Yes.
President.
Aye. Ms. Jones, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
Yes, I would like to present the resolution for amending the Board Policy 5610 for removal, suspension, expulsion, permanent exclusion of students. In this policy, the attempt here is to align the policy with the district's current practice of not expelling or suspending students in preschool and kindergarten to third grade, except as required by law. So I present this resolution to amend Board Policy 5610.
Second. Is there any discussion or comment? Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones? Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms? Aye.
Aye. Now, I've gotten a little twisted around. Mr. Manera, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
Yes, I present a resolution approving the 2017 board meeting schedule. And, working on that for months too. So I submitted as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comment? Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, just that we again pass this tonight for sure, but also let's start to, again, another discussion about rethinking how we organize our time. I'm sure we are the school board that meets the most in the state of Ohio. And there's that much work to be done, but it also, maybe there's a way to organize it in such a way that we could do it. So as long as there's going to be some formal discussion about how we might best organize our time, I'm happy to vote yes to get this done.
Ms. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Copeland Dansby?
Aye. Mr. Nelms, would you please present the resolution for board consideration?
Certainly, Madam President, a resolution approving the 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting schedule, and I present as you have in your package, and it is written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or comment? Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Yes.
President Copeland Dansby?
Aye. Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report?
I did, but Mr. Nelms stole my thunder. It was about the Mitra Jones, but I was able to show the picture, so I'm happy.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that and always keeping us up to date. Do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Copeland Dansby?
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the revised report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Bolton?
It's mine, maybe I'm a little behind the time, but the revision has excluded the previous number 42, which was the transportation contract.
Yes, that was at their request because they're still negotiating the fine terms of the contract.
Good.
That's good to know.
And if we pass this, it's the 5-year forecast that we're passing.
That's correct.
That is correct. You ready to do it? Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Copeland Dansby?
Aye. Are there any inquiries and updates? Ms. Bates?
I have one, and I had let the board know that I was going to bring this forward as an assignment, and we can kind of decide where this is best assigned, because I think there's a variety of ways of looking at this, and that's the equity in extracurriculars. And I see that there was a chart prepared for us. I know that the district through ABC funds a male and a female sport each season, and then other schools through boosters or, fundraising are able to fund other activities as well. But I'm not sure that, just tit for tat, that's really an equitable way of looking at it. As I had pointed out to you, that it obviously seems that there's not equity in quality in the deliverance of programming of extracurriculars to males and females, as demonstrated by the, by the achievements. The boys far exceed the girls in citywide achievements in their respective sports, which means that the girls aren't having the opportunity for scholarships at the same rate as the boys are. It's like 2 to 1, actually. So we really, I would like to make the assignment that we look at, how we assign coaches. If it's a contractual issue, that may have to be addressed. If it's an HR issue, that may have to be part of the application. What else does this, potential employee have to offer besides, the requirement for academics or, whatever they're applying for. But definitely, it seems to me that quality of extracurricular programming for girls is an issue of equity. Would this be best handled in student achievement perhaps, or should we have the administration take a look at it and give us an analysis before we decide to address it at a board committee level? What's the pleasure of the board if there's agreement that?
Yeah, so I don't really understand what you're asking first and foremost. And as we've talked about equity in extracurriculars and that, I think along with your desire to figure out the issues with male-female sports, it's also the whole equity issue related to each school, their level of participation, their preparedness for whatever level of participation they're desiring. We've talked a lot about our young people we had to switch the whole league around for some of our schools because our kids were going to sporting events unprepared with particular equipment and just basic uniforms even. So I think if we're gonna look at extracurriculars in this particular way, I think it starts there and perhaps can be inclusive of both. I particularly also don't know that it should be committee work. I think that's the work of the administration, and that's my point. Ms. Bolton.
I would agree. We had the outgoing AD speak with student achievement today, and That's why there was that chart that's been produced regarding the athletic opportunities. I do think that it's, if we can figure out what we want the administration to report back about, which is equity perhaps by gender and equity by school, and also what we found today too is the equity piece, that just because one school has a particular sport or club, it doesn't mean that everybody has to. It's so, again, to that, it has to be fit to the school. So I think I would like to see the gender piece, and part of that is the number of sports, number of coaches for our women versus our guys. I'm sure we fit within title and law, but I think that would be good, and I think we have to look at it from the schools. I think it should be asked of the administration to report back to us on that.
Yeah.
And I have as a tail to that, if I could, I'm very interested in knowing of all the Schedule E, and this might be part of what I'd be asking, of all of the Schedule E contracts, which are up annually. Nobody gets to return. It's they can be stopped or what have you, and it needs to be the best hire possible each year. I would like to know how many of the Schedule E personnel were actually evaluated this year. That's what I want to see. I want an inventory of the evaluations that was to take place for all of the, and that's activities as well as athletics. And I think that might give us an idea too as to where we are on the quality piece and whether or not we're treating this as seriously as we need to.
Yeah, so can we assure that all board members are provided with the chart that was given in student achievement today, I think first and foremost?
Yeah, I think it'll be part of the student achievement minutes. Ms. Davis already mentioned that to us, so that'll be good.
Okay, that's fine. And then I think superintendent has captured what you've just mentioned. Ms. Hoffman? No?
Completely different topic.
Oh, okay. All right, you were waving like.
No, sorry.
Had something. Okay, so yeah, so that sounds good. The one thing though that I just want to reiterate is a look per each school.
Yes.
Because what fits one school doesn't fit the other school. And as long as we're trying to make everything uniform, that's not what our equity policy is about, number one. And then number two, just by virtue of having had our AD retire, perhaps there's a new vision for our athletics and or extracurriculars. And so I think essentially that's what I would be asking for. Like, what is the overall vision? What are the objectives? What are we trying to accomplish? And I think some of these questions perhaps get answered through that process. Ms. Bolton.
Also, the explanation as to how the new hire is taking place and what have you would be of use.
That would be a great update, and I don't know if any other board members want to weigh in on that or not. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hoffman.
Yes, so going back to updates, I think we skipped to assignments. I have an update.
No, we were supposed to be in updates and
okay.
inquiries.
It's late. I wasn't sure if I just missed our
Well, let's
skipping over
keep
to
going.
assignments.
Let's go.
Okay, so back at updates. I just have an update for the board. Over the last few months, I've mentioned a number of times that I think it would be great if we did a mapping project to really help us be strategic in our decision making. And Deputy Superintendent Mitchell and I were able to last Friday hear a presentation from and engage in conversation with a woman from IFF, which is an organization that does these kind of mapping projects. They've done it for a number of districts and states around the country. And so she talked about how they would map for the whole CPS footprint, where kids are going to school, the demographics of the children, what they call commuting patterns, so where a kid lives versus where they go to school, the success of schools, population changes, all of this kind of stuff, so that we can make really strategic decisions about where to expand. So wanted to update you that conversation happened, and that Deputy Superintendent Mitchell made just a really wonderful suggestion during that meeting that really kind of changed the tone of the meeting, that I wanted to update you all on, where we were talking about how do you measure what a successful school is. Everyone around the table is like, we are not using PARC, right? Like that was a debacle last year. So how do we measure this? And the deputy superintendent talked about what if we could get everyone aligned. So charters, parochials, privates, publics, around this shared definition of what a successful school is. Because in the words of the deputy superintendent, she said, these are all our kids. That was really powerful, right? That as adults in the community, we are responsible for all of the children, regardless of what type of school they're going to. And so the next step coming out of that meeting was that we'll get this small group together to start to come up with what this shared definition is, because then we can figure out how to assess it and then how to make sure all kids have access to it. And so we talked transformational earlier tonight, and this is one of those ideas that has the potential to be transformational for our kids. So wanted to just update you that that conversation happened and that that's one of the steps that's going to be coming from it. So if folks have questions, you know where to find me.
Thank you. Are there any other inquiries or updates? Assignments? Any assignments? I do have one. The last time we were together, we assigned some of the conversation related to preschool promise and a shared vision and a joint levy and a resolution and everything that we've done tonight. We assigned it to the Finance Committee. In Finance Committee, we discussed moving that work outside of finance back into full board work. We also talked about that at our last CAL, and I believe we were all in agreement of that. And I said to you all that I would make that announcement here formally tonight. And so just a couple of the things that I jotted down were, you know, as next steps, you know, there's still quite a deal of work that's yet to be done related to the details surrounding a partnership, what happens moving forward, exactly how does this thing get rolled out, what is the structure of it, continuing to work through the shared vision, continuing to make certain that things are in line with our board policies, making sure that things are legally in line, and for me, ensuring equity and collaboration. And so I'm making the assignment of moving that work out of finance to the full board work, because I've listened to us the past week or 10 days, and I know we're all very passionate about getting this right. And for me, just as one board member, I think that's, you know, expressly a concern for me to ensure that collectively we're getting the work done. Ms. Bolton.
I think that's a great idea. I would amend it only in a couple of ways. From a standpoint, I think there is a work group that is suggested by the treasurer that I think when you were there, you heard that. We're using Ms. England's expertise and Assistant Superintendent Broadnax and Andrea Faulkner to kind of work through a model. I think that small group can do that sort of thing. I think that should be continued. And I would encourage too that it is full board. And that indeed, as the board members represent us, they're representing whatever we're kind of coming up with together in the group, the combined group that's meeting to kind of hammer some things out. I think it would be important for the board to be clear. I mean, the one thing we've written so far was, I think as a result of the superintendent getting a very late request about where's the board on, and you had to take back kind of a document that said, we know, we believe these things, or these are the, so I think more of that kind of work would, it'd be great for us to be able to do, so that when you all are going in there, you have a sense that you have the consensus of the board.
Yep, that's great. So, you know, I really do appreciate the work we were able to do in CAL as we began conversation around a shared vision. I do really appreciate how we collectively felt a sense of urgency to get this resolution passed tonight, and that was like lightning speed that got done. So, you know, we can expect to continue to work at a very aggressive and fast pace. But for me, you know, transparency, collaboration, and inclusiveness is what's most important as we're doing these things. You know, we have a framework now, so we can collectively talk to the community with the same message. We have one message, and it's in that resolution, and I'm asking that we stick to that. So how do we do that? The whole board has to accept the assignment? I don't think so. That's just a statement. It's just, and I do want to refer to the study, that the small group that you're mentioning. I think that's a great idea, and I think that would be great committee work. And talking with our treasurer, using Ms. England as an example, and then having other providers that are different quality rated, and doing a, pilot and understand, getting some deep-rooted understanding there. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that should live in finance. I think that's great.
And reminding folks that I think it's been worked out that we would like the CFT represented in that group, as well as the private providers in the group that's kind of working together. And part of the interesting thing about the partnership now is that we can't really be going our separate ways.
No, that's it. That's exactly
So
right.
this should change a lot of behaviors along the way.
And I do want to remind the group that the private provider got to finance by my invite, having been in some group conversations related to a collaborative and shared resolution. Okay, any other assignments? All right, I'm gonna do this real quick and fast. Having no other business, we're adjourned. No more business.
Be safe.
Good night to all.
I'm stuck to this chair.
I had to find a reason to stand up. I took Phyllis those forms. I had to.
Yeah.
My
Just to
legs.
circulate your blood. Y'all be safe going home.
Let's do them. We got anyone in there.
You headed to the house, girl? I see Miss Neck got paid tonight.
Yeah, she did. But now that I know that, I can get
Why did you turn it in so late?
I'm trying to tell her. Like,
They should turn in these Schedule E contracts at the beginning of the season.